Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Intuitive Life Coach. This is your host, Angie. And just first off, I am fighting something. I don't know what. Yesterday I started feeling kind of worn down, but I've been doing some energy clearing and meditations and stuff today, and I feel it lifting off of me, but I also know that right now there is a lot of energy shifting happening on the earth. And I was watching someone that I follow that talks about the energy frequency and the shifts that are happening right now. And I'm going to totally say this totally wrong. So don't corner me and tell me how off I am. But I believe the earth is normally setting at a 7 hertz frequency or somewhere lower, maybe even a 4 or 5. And in the last days, particularly the last few days, the frequency of the earth has been all the way up into I think they said the 40s or to really, really high. And so if you're feeling a little wonky right now and your energy's off, or you feel like you might be sick or getting headaches, or there's something going on with your body and you are in an awakening, or you are kind of in a place of working on enhancing your frequency and upgrading your body in a sense to match the frequency of your spirit in any way, your body is having to adjust to this frequency change. So you're not crazy if you feel off. You're not crazy if you feel sick. Whatever is coming up for you, it could be different for all kinds of people, but just know that part of growth is our bodies are at a lower frequency than our spirit, and they have to sometimes catch up when we're growing or being enhanced in any ways. So if you find that you're in that place right now, just be really patient with yourself and just allow that change to happen. It's okay to rest. It's okay to take a moment, pause, and to lay it down or lay around, do whatever to get yourself in a place where you can handle this shift, and then you'll feel strengthened here in a day or so. I think for some reason I'm kind of hearing in my spirit that tomorrow will feel better. So if you're listening to this, particularly on, I don't even know what day it is. I believe it is the 16th. Oh yeah. Okay. So Martin Luther King Day. Then just know that things will even out eventually. I also am looking at the calendar and noticing we have another full moon coming up this week, which I was not aware of. So it could be a lot of that energy too, if you're at all affected by the moon, or maybe it's a new moon. I think it's the new moon. I'll have to look that up. But just know that and particularly if your sign is connected to the moon, but also I've been studying a lot about human design, and there are some people that are affected a little bit more so by the frequencies of certain planets and the moon and the earth. So if you are, want to look into that and study a little bit, I think it's awesome. I recommend it. It's given me so many insights about myself. I actually just turned in all my information to a human design expert, and I'm waiting for them to give me some information about this year ahead as far as my business, because I really want to start using my own human design to enhance what I provide for people and working out of my own giftings instead of comparing myself to other people or trying to do things based on what I've learned, learning how to use my own gifts instead. So that is something that if you ever are, intrigued by, just you can look up human design And then it will ask you the same things that you have to put in for your birth chart. So make sure you have like your time of birth and place of birth and all that stuff. So that leads me into what I actually was feeling like talking, like I was supposed to share today. I did the last couple of weeks. I've been trying to, like I said, working on getting to know my own self a little bit here, the start of 2023. And I have felt really, really called to dive into some shadows in my life. And it kind of seems like things keep lining up for me to do that work. And I, sorry, I'm going to try not to like choke during this, but I actually am, it's just really interesting how the universe will put things in your place that will help you when you need it and when you're ready. And I am going to be starting a training tomorrow, a 3-week. It's just a short little one, learning a little bit more about darkness and the energy of darkness and some things like that. And based on that, if you've read my first book, Leaf Lessons, When Trauma and Religion Collide, The Process of Spiritual Awakening and Healing, you will have read in there about how I saw a shadow as a child, and it was like a spirit. And I was pretty scared of it, I remember, but I also have been doing a little bit of work of trying to see, like, I mean, I don't know that there's an actual way to like go into time, like past time and know for sure what has happened. I think there are ways to do that as far as like being like hypnotism and like even some like therapy work like that a lot of therapists do. They can help you kind of pull up some memories, but I've been doing a lot of meditating on kind of diving back into my childhood as far as particularly the dark shadows that I would see or some things I would experience as a child and kind of try to make more sense of these things. And so I will be diving into that a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. So I've been trying to prepare myself for that just spiritually, just to be ready to take that on and because I do feel like once I get a grasp of this, understand this a little bit more, I sense there's going to be a shifting of either my gift or energy or something's coming. And so I want to be prepared for that because I also have an understanding that to move forward in life, you have to have been able to enhance your frequency to where you want to be, but also be okay with where you are now. And so that brings me to what with all this shadow work, yesterday during a meditation, I spent the afternoon meditating for quite a while. And I did get quite a bit of things that came to me in particular. I'm not going to share the whole thing as I'm still really processing it, but the very end of this vision I had was very interesting because it kind of lined up with what I got for the message of like the wave of healing that is coming for people and that shadow work that needs to be done. And I saw almost as if, when you take a sheet and you like kind of shake it, like you pull it up and pull it down and it does this like ripple effect. I saw this happening with the energy of the earth, as if there was something that picked the energy up and began to shake it up and down, and there were waves going across the earth all around it. And the waves were enhancing some areas and pulling others down. And as I saw this, I came into a deeper awareness and understanding of the need to trust the waves and to not fight against them, which if you haven't listened to my last podcast or my episode, as far as like the the actual wave, like pulling you under, like the ocean wave. This is something similar. So it's still the same theme, but I feel as if this is like an energetic wave that is coming right along with the shadow work. Because when we dive deep into the shadows and we see what it is that we have yet to see, and we shake these places open, this takes stagnant energy and forces it to move. So I have a couple examples that I like to use when I'm working with somebody in my individual coaching, like when they're talking about being stuck or shifting in some sense their energy. One of the things I like to teach people is, especially, and I'm a Reiki master, so I do Reiki as well, but is that energy becomes clogged, almost like if you were to go to a body of water, whether that be a little pond or a lake or whatever it is, like if it's an enclosed water, on the edge of the water where it meets the land is likely where you will see the most debris. You will see a lot of plants growing there. You'll see, like, if there's been trash thrown in the water, it will gather up against the shore. And it also tends to have a lot more of the, like, algae or, like, sudsy bubble kind of stuff on the outer edges of the water. So if you were to throw a rock into this area, the part where the rock hits the water would clear that whatever is in there, debris or moss or algae or whatever, and it would disperse. And for a moment, that part of the water would appear clear. Now, what happens is if you don't clear the entire area, like if you don't actually pull out whatever it is in that area that's causing it to look stagnant or to be plugged up, I guess, then it's going to re-plug that area. And this is much like shadow work, is the little parts of our lives that we yet to really look at. Another example is if you take a moment and look around the room you're in and you look up in the corners. And maybe you're one of these people. I used to have a friend that would every single week she cleaned her baseboards in her ceiling. So I know there are people like that, but I'm not one of those. If you look up though, you will likely in some room of your house see somewhat of a cobweb or dust or something, or even your baseboards, like the areas of your home that are kind of just there. They're not. The function of them is to hold the structure up and not necessarily something that you look at it on a daily basis. And until you actually see it, you don't really even know it's there. And a lot of times we don't even take the time to look in these areas because it's just not on our radar to do that. But then one day you look up and you're like, oh my God, look at all those cobwebs in the corner of my room or, on my baseboard. Wherever you may find it. Sometimes, walls even get, like if there's a room that you don't spend a lot of time, the wall may even have some dust on it or something. But the interesting part of this is that the structure is where these clogs and this dust gets settled. And then without looking, it just continues to grow. And that is another example of what the shadows of our lives are. So we have our main ways of looking at life or presenting ourselves. And a lot of times the way we present ourselves to the world is much different than the way that we are in our private life or in the quietness of our own being. And I think about, me coming from the mental health field. One of the things I remember being taught is to not expose anything of yourself to a client, not to share any intimate things about yourself to a client because it could be it could cause problems in a relationship and all kinds of stuff. And I remember one day I was going through a training. I believe this was maybe 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there. And I was learning, there was a university that came to do some training for us, and a woman came, and she was teaching us a strategy of how to work with teenagers that, struggled with some substance abuse. And she started sharing her own personal story about having a brother that struggled with substances and mental illness and things like that, and what it was like being on the other side of the table working with somebody in the mental health field, and how it felt so not authentic and almost like cold, almost like they had an agenda to come in and fix and make this person better, but they were like a superhuman and they had the answers, and the family didn't. And she shared about how she got really frustrated in this because there was no relationship that was built. There was no actual communication on a sense of like hearing her or having a, like building a trust, I guess, really between them. And I think mental health is coming a really, really long way. I know there's a lot of people out there that is starting to notice that, there's some pieces missing. And like if you were to study Gabor Monte and some of the kind of people coming into the lead of teaching about relationship when working with people and stuff, I believe that, and this is what this is one of the reasons I do coaching as well, but I believe that relationship aspect is so very important for people to feel safe enough to be in a healing space to expose these dark areas of their lives. Because if you don't have that, it feels very, it's almost like you're being cornered and forced to expose things that you've never exposed even to yourself. Like these are things that we keep hidden from ourselves even. Because in some sense, it's easy to come in and just share the parts of your life that you struggle with. Like, yeah, I keep repeating the same pattern. I have this problem. I struggle in this kind of relationship. This is where, this is what happened in my past. This is a trauma I have. These are the things that I, struggle with. It's just like a surface. And then it's not necessarily a surface thing, but like, I know for me, like thinking back through my process of healing over the years, there was a sense of like hiddenness that I felt like I had to stay in. Like there wasn't ever that I didn't feel safe, one, within myself, and it wasn't that these people were not safe. It was just that the atmosphere did not provide the safety for me. And so there was a sense of hiding part of who I was in order to be presentable, I guess. And so what I really sense happening in the energy right now with this wave, like picking up the energy like a sheet and moving it up and down and shaking off all the debris and dust and things that have been stagnant for a really long time, is this need to be fully authentic, not just with other people, but with ourselves. And so now there's a time and place, an area this is safe to do. So this isn't to make people just walk around and share all their secrets with people, but I really sense that if the universe is providing you a safe place, and that is the universe telling you this is where we go next. And I'm sensing there is a big shift even happening as far as those healing areas that are provided for people, where there's going to be more of an authentic opening for both parties to share, because in that it brings healing and awareness that we all have shadows that are being shaken. And so I know that for me and my work, doing some intuitive life coaching and healing, my desire is to grow even to be more authentic and to be more humble in many ways, to allow my ego to step aside and not to be too afraid or fearful of my own shadow being exposed to somebody I work with. Because, and I found this to be very true with a couple people I've been working with, is when I share my story, it's like they lighten up and they're like, okay, I can share this with you. And so they say it, and then that provides the opportunity to begin to actually do the work of healing the area. So like just full authentic sharing here. I'm not going to go way into this because this is, there does have to be a safety in this, but I shared some things that I've never shared with anybody, with my healer, my therapist. And I know that there's been safety that is built there where I can do that. And it feels like there's an authentic trust for me on my part anyways. And so it's been nice to feel like I can find that place. And that's what I want to provide for the people I'm working with. And so if you have a safe place, and this is something you can do with your own self. Like we have to have a relationship with ourselves too. And so if it's not with another human, then how are you providing this safety for yourself to expose these things? Because, what's really interesting is I'm feeling nervous about this training I'm about to do, because it is going to expose things that I have been judged for in the past when I have shared them. And particularly within my religious background, when I would talk about like seeing spirits or shadows or hearing things or knowing things, like I had a lot of judgment and things come back at me for these things, as a lot of people believe that, there was something wrong with me, or I wasn't saved, or I wasn't clean enough, or whatever it was. But and it may have not even been what they were putting on me, but that's what came out of me, because that's what I hold in my body somewhere. That's my shadow that would be exposed. And so to hide the shadow, I stay hidden in the areas of my life that expose those parts. So I find myself a little nervous coming into the next weeks where, I've done a training with this group before, and I remember it being pretty authentic, like sharing within this circle, and it exposed a lot of things and a lot of people, and I feel myself wanting to hide this part of myself and not wanting to expose it because of fear. And so I'm trying to allow my shadow, that part of my life, to understand. Like I'm trying to teach this part of myself that by shaking this out and then exposing it and putting the light on it and then clearing it and then replacing it with new is actually going to enhance my ability to grow and be the healer and guide and teacher that I know I'm meant to be and I desire to be. And so, I think about how in writing my second book, Composting the Ego, how often I had to stop writing and review what I wrote and see, did I write this out of my ego, is what I would question. And a lot of times I did. And, it probably took me way longer to write the book than it would have had I not really paid attention to that. But I did have to go back and delete entire chapters to make sure that I was in alignment with my highest self. And it doesn't mean that there's not still parts of my ego that are coming out in it, because there's not really any way to completely disconnect from that part of ourselves. But being able to be aware is key to growth. And so I am, you know, I think we all have a lot of shadows about us. And exposing those parts of ourselves is very, very scary because there's most of them have been hidden for many years. And doing this work is not easy. But I do feel like this is the next shift that is happening, and why the frequency of the earth is even shifting, because it's almost like this wave of frequency is taking us really, really, really high in our bodies and forcing us to be still. And then it's going to come back down, and it's like waving it up and down, bringing the dust out, bringing the shadows out, bringing the dormant and stagnant and areas of our lives that are easy to avoid because they're the parts that are easiest to not show. But the reality of it is many of these parts, once we really dive in and let them be, exposed by the light, they're not going to seem as daunting or scary, because we will understand that they are simply parts of our lives that have been placed there through programming that we've been through, whether that's trauma, something that we've believed about ourselves, or something we've taken on from a belief of somebody else that they put on us, which exposes their shadow as well. So it's all full circle. And if you're feeling this shifting at all, my encouragement for you is to take time to really let the process happen. Now, I will lead this into an offer that I feel I am led to start this year. And I am in the process of creating the actual course, but I am offering individual shadow work at the moment. If you are wanting to dive in and do individual shadow work on a very deep level, I am opening up a 3-month program where you can work one-on-one with me and be in a place where you're safe to be authentic and real, and talk about those areas where you do find the cobwebs or the stagnant and the trash that has built up. Because when we start to release that part, you're going to come into the next phase of your healing. You're going to be able to start that business or even enhance that business that you've had. Or you're going to be able to write that book you've wanted to write. These are areas of our lives that may be keeping us from where we're actually meant to go. Now, we don't have to dive into every shadow, but I do believe that there needs to be a start. And if there are people being called to it, then I do know that safety and a place to do it is much needed, because I know I need it. And so if you are in a place where you're wanting to do shadow work and you feel that wave, you feel that shift coming and shaking you out a little bit, then don't be afraid to reach out and invest into that process, because that investment actually will come back to you probably tenfold more, because we forget that investing in ourselves is actually beneficial to our growth, and in all areas of our lives are enhanced, from relationships to money to business to all kinds of things. So by letting go of these areas where we've stuck our little fears into our energetic body or our insecurities, we can release them and then begin to bring the magnitude of our frequency into a higher level. And that is where we begin to manifest the lives that we are truly meant to live, or we are desiring. So be watching for that course, as I'm going to start developing it this week actually. But until that course is actually complete, if you are wanting to just do individual work and you're not wanting to actually do a group course of shadow work, which can be kind of intimidating, I do encourage you to reach out to me. You can find that on my website, www.leaflife.com. stagnantlessons.org, and it is under courses. There also is some other courses on there that I have just uploaded. I have the 15-day meditation challenge that I did with the New Year group. We just ended yesterday. It was day 15. Woohoo! Way to go, guys. I opened that up for people to purchase if they would like to do that 15-day meditation challenge. I highly encourage it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not like patting myself on the back, but I am. I always do, whenever I do a course, I always do it with my people because I believe in practicing what I preach. And I did the course. You guys, I was bawling almost every day from the meditations that I had recorded and put on there. And sometimes when you're like the teacher or leading something, you're not able to go as deep into something when you're like creating it. And then going back and doing it, you're like, oh, that was a little deep there. But so if you are a creator of any kind and you lead meditations or you do anything like that, make sure you take time to go back and do your own stuff because it really is revealing a little bit, even to your shadows of what you have hidden. So, but anyways, I highly recommend it. And those who have taken the course, I do know that it's been hard to keep up for some people, so they are welcome to purchase that as well. I made it really cheap, you guys. So just get on that website and enroll. So, all right. And then one more update, Composting the Ego should be with the first edit with my editor should be done by this week. And I will review it. And then we'll go back and forth for a week or two. And I am thinking I will probably have the book. My goal is to have it published by Valentine's Day. So we will see. Last time when I was trying to get my first book published, the universe kept pushing me back and back and back, and there was a reason for it. This time I'm just going to trust the process instead of try to fight against it. But be watching for that. If you do know that you're going to want to get that book and you're kind of like want to know how to get it right away, feel free to reach out to me. I have a link on my website, but there is nothing attached to it yet because I haven't got the actual pre-orders done and everything into it. But if you want to be on a waiting list to be emailed or notified when it's done and finally out, then feel free to reach out to me and I will send you a personal email to let you know. So, all right, guys, I hope you have the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is for you. I send you all the universal love that there is. Namaste.